Hey everybody, welcome back to Madison County Live. We have a very special guest in our virtual studio today, Mr. Jeff Rubin. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Very good, sir. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
We're so pleased to have you. So, Randy, go ahead. I know you have a lot of questions to ask.
So, Jeff and I have known each other for quite a while. We worked on community conversations with, especially on the radio and some TV stuff. Jeff, tell us exactly what's your official title, and I know you're an author and an advocate. Kind of tell us what you do, Jeff.
Well, I'm principal at a company called Rubin, Hagen and Associates, and we work with a number of colleagues, both nationally and internationally, to address aging issues.
Excellent. And I also know that you do have a book out. Tell us a little bit, because you are an author also. So tell us a little bit about the book, Jeff.
Well, the book is called Wisdom of Age, and it's very interesting. We are knee-deep in addressing ageism. It is the last ism that really exists globally, and it's the number one issue facing elders today. And I just thought to myself, you know, we seem to define people by what age they are, but nobody can come up with a clear understanding of what that number is. And so I think it's ludicrous to put somebody in a box just based on a number or a wrinkle. And so I decided to do a little research on this, and I said, okay, I'm going to ask people, first of all, their first name and what age they are. Said I'm going to ask them if they know any old people, and how old do they think is old, and then what's one bit of advice they would give to somebody younger than themselves.
Right.
And the responses I got ranged in age from 5 all the way up to 103.
Wow.
And it was fascinating because the clarity and insight of what's important from a 5-year-old and someone much older is very similar. There's a clarity there and an insight that we seem to have lost or never learned along the way. And so the book took on a life of its own, because you could find wisdom from someone as young as 5 or 9, let's say.
Sure.
And you might be in your 30s or 40s and say, I can't believe this. This person has an insight that I never thought about.
Right.
And we had one girl who was 9 years old who talked about self-esteem, and that got a lot of response. But the book, as I said, took on a life of its own, and we're using it as a way to engage different generations to begin to talk to one another, to break down these barriers of misinformation and mistrust, and to begin to look at the kind of issues that we're all facing, but we're not really addressing. You know, the most abundant resource we have is human capital, yet we consistently marginalize people at both ends of the spectrum, the young and the old. I'm trying to include them.
Right.
I mean, someone once said, no decision without me. Well, you know, we're speaking for people. We're not asking them, what do you think?
Right.
And by asking them what they think, you're empowering them. So,
Right. That's excellent. And Jeff, I'm going to give you a little plug here, because I think you also have a website. So where can people go to actually purchase this book?
The website is www.wisdomofage.net.
Okay.
N-E-T.
Excellent. Excellent. And of course, we'll put that up on the screen as well. So I know, Jeff, so I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. So what are the top 2 things, you know, you talk about ageism. Have you got, at what age is that, as people think, okay, he or she is too old?
Well, you know, what really got me thinking about the book was a few years ago I read an article in one of the publications, and it talked about Silicon Valley, and that someone at 30 was considered too old for work in Silicon Valley.
Wow.
And yeah, and so, you know, if defining somebody as old at 30, and in the advertising industry at 40, And that's when we have national laws against age discrimination begins at 40.
Wow, that's fascinating. That really is.
Jeff, I love your philosophy of engage at every age. So what are a few, and I know there are so many, but what are a few key things that each of us can do that we can implement into our daily lives to live in this premise?
Well, I think that we need to spend more time listening to one another. We don't do enough of that, and we don't take into account the dignity and respect that people deserve, regardless of how old or how young they are. Because the perception is ageism is discrimination against someone who is an older person. It's discrimination against anyone at any age, based upon a misperception or a prejudice we have. When we were growing up, they'd say, children should be seen and not heard.
Right.
Well, the children in this country are beginning to change our thinking about climate change, about gun control, about and adults were having difficulty even bringing these subjects up.
True.
So we all need to be engaged.
And as my grandfather always used to say, Jeff, if you want to know the truth about something, get a child to look at it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's an organization. The World Health Organization is a major champion of promoting livable and age-friendly communities. This is a concept that they launched back in 2007 to address the fact that communities are not looking at the fact that we are all aging and how are we preparing for it in terms of basic services, for example. And one of the things that struck me in their approach is to say, when you look at a community through the lens of an elder, everybody benefits.
Sure.
And it's so true.
So true.
But we're not thinking along those lines.
Right.
Unfortunately, there is not any long-term planning going on that I know of here in Kentucky that includes aging as a component.
Wow.
And how can we not? We simply are shooting ourselves in the foot. But I think that one of the reasons we're not looking at it seriously is because we don't see ourselves as aging. We're not aging. It's
True.
the other person, you know?
Yep.
And so therein lies the problem, I think.
Excellent. Jeff, for more information, where can they, because I know you also write articles too,
Yes.
and things and blogs. So where can people get more information on this subject of ageism?
Well, they can go to my website, and there's a number of articles on the blog that will be helpful to them, as well as other resources. But I would say if you want to look at the issues of ageism, you need to look at organizations like AARP, American Society on Aging, and in our own communities, the area agencies on aging.
Okay.
How are they addressing this?
Right. And don't forget, purchase Jeff's book, wisdomofage.net. Is that correct?
That's the site where you can get it. Yes.
Good. I've got it. I read it, and lots of great insights, Colleen.
Absolutely fascinating and so valuable. We appreciate this work that you're doing, Jeff. Very important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen. I appreciate it.
That's right, Jeff. Thanks for coming on today. Folks, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
With more Madison County Live coming up next. Madison County Live is brought to you in part by the Madison County Health Department, protecting, promoting, and improving the health of our community. The all-new Chevy Silverado, now available at Jack Burford Chevrolet and always available at jackburford.com. kymedia.net. Digital media services from top-of-the-line video production to live streaming services. We'd like to thank another great sponsor of Madison County Live, Morning Point Assisted Living Center in Richmond, Kentucky, 1400 Gibson Bay Drive. Visit them at morningpoint.com.